Alright, you made it to level 3. Congratulations. Today, we're going to be going through more stuff from the Superman Self-Defense program. I figured that the program would be complete just with the books and the audio recordings, as well as the self-development, subliminal messaging, and affirmational CDs that I supplied. But after thinking about it and reflecting on the program, I said to myself, it would not be a complete program if I did not involve self-defense, considering Superman knows how to fight very well. So I created this 3-level program for you, and this is the 3rd level. And what we're going to be doing is we're going to be completing the series here in this video. So it's pretty much teaching you the advanced level of self-defense, which is blocking or deflecting, as well as the things that are involved in that. So the first thing that I want to go through in defense is breathing. Every great fighter knows how to breathe, and it's the ultimate energy that we have as people. So we have water, we have food, we have material resources, but more subtle than that, more important is our breath. And all of the greatest people in self-defense, the greatest fighters, know how to breathe on a professional level. So it's something that's highly important. Now, what I've been learning for my method of breathing is the Wim Hof method, which is a breathing where you take in 30 deep breaths, you hold a breath, and then you breathe in one more time, hold again, and take another deep breaths. That's 30 deep breaths. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Then you hold as long as you can. Exhale, and then take another breath. Hold, and then let that all go. Your system is completely clear at that point. And then you can repeat that process, but even just one process of that will completely clear your cardiopulmonary system and allow for open gateways and channels to absorb more energy, which in this case, if we're talking about self-defense, would be universal energy or the chi. So with that being said, if you ever get into a confrontation and you need to start preparing yourself for what's going to happen, focus on your breathing. Because the man who's breathing more precisely, who's breathing better in that scenario, is going to have more energy, more stamina, more endurance. If you have an opponent and he doesn't know how to breathe, you can just choke him out. And what I mean choke him out, I mean you can exhaust him. And we'll go through more of that, of exhaustion. But pretty much at the end of the fight, it's really the person who has the most energy that's going to come out on top. So, alright, so in fighting, there's something called telegraphic movements and non-telegraphic movements. And so when we're in a combat, what we want to do is we want to make sure that our movements are non-telegraphic. And what I mean by that is a person is going to be able to know when you're coming at them just by precursor movements. So if I go to punch, a lot of people like to cock back first and then punch. That cock back is a telegraphic movement. You want to be non-telegraphic. So you don't want them to know that you're coming. So instead of cocking back to get more force, I would use my legs to get more force. So here's the speed of just a regular fighter cocking back, right? And then here's a non-telegraphic. So this is the difference of speed, and you're going to be able to reach the target better with non-telegraphic movements. This is very important. You want the strike not only to be powerful, but you want it to stun them. You don't even want them to know it's coming. And this goes with kicks too. Most people kick, right? And before they kick, they do a cock back to get power. So, right? But you don't want to do that. You just want to lock in, be loose, and kick with non-telegraphic, so no one knows that kick is coming. The more non-telegraphic you become, the more you practice that, the better of a fighter you're going to be. So it's a great thing to understand, it's a great thing to notice, and as you continue to craft your self-defense, your own style, because ultimately it's going to be your own style, make that one of the priorities, that it's non-telegraphic. Your style is non-telegraphic. All right. That's an important one. So now that we got that out of the way, I want to focus on following the opponent's rhythm. This whole video series, you could have been following my rhythm, right? What is my rhythm, right? How do I move? Just follow me throughout the whole video series. How am I moving? How am I explaining? How am I punching? How am I kicking? That's how you know the opponent. Pretend I'm your opponent. You know how I'm moving. You know my rhythm. You know how I'm moving. This is a great to know, because if the opponent knows that you're following their rhythm, they're gonna fall into a defensive stance. They're no longer gonna be as confident. And if they're not a confident fighter, they're gonna lose. So the most confident fighter is the one that's following the other person's rhythm. If you have someone who's really fast, you know, like a flurry fighter, you're following that. You might respond with increasing your speed, or you might respond by opposing that energy and slowing down. And instead of punching fast, you give them nice, slow punches. And that might take them out as well. But the most important thing to remember is to follow their rhythm. You want to know how they're moving. Are they shuffling? You know, how are they moving their feet? It should all be focusing on the center line. Focus on your opponent's center line, and just following their movement. It's like listening to a song. And you'll understand your opponent's rhythm. And that's for any fighter. You can focus on any fight that you can get on YouTube. You know, put in Floyd Mayweather, any of your favorite fighters, and just follow their rhythm and practice, so that you get used to it, so that when you get into a confrontation, you know how to follow fighter's rhythm. All right, I'm gonna give you something super powerful, and it's an amazing it's an amazing technique to use that will exhaust your opponent. And it's, instead of blocking, right, which most fighters end up blocking, you roll. It's called rolling. It's a big part of Kung Fu. So usually you have someone who's gonna punch, and then the opponent will block. But if you want to exhaust your opponent, let him fully punch, get the full extension, and just roll into the punch. So instead of blocking it when it comes my way, I'm just rolling into it. Rolling into it. Rolling into it. So you're not doing anything with the punch, but the opponent is completely exhausting himself. He's not getting any energy from you. When you block an opponent on a metaphysical level, that opponent is receiving energy from you. But if you're rolling from that opponent's punch, right, you are exhausting his energies completely, because he has no block, he has nothing, he has no foundation. So he is now in a sense where he could drop into a full exhausted state and defeat himself just by continuing to try to hit you and you continuing to roll. Another great way is slipping. Not moving at all, but shifting your weight to slip the punch. And if you successfully slip that punch, his whole area is open, and you could just come in for a devastating blow. Just devastating. So that's rolling. And it's very simple, and you can get used to it. That's one of the best defensive tactics that's available in the Kung Fu martial arts, which is just to do nothing, but to roll back. Sometimes doing nothing is the most important thing to do. All right. So the next thing is to slap the opponent. We don't do this to defeat the opponent. We do this to mess with the opponent's head, right? So in this training section, I'm gonna teach you ways that you're gonna mess with the opponent's head. And if you could successfully get into the opponent's mind, then you can successfully defeat that opponent very easily. So if you have an opponent and he has his hands up like this, right? And he's ready to lunge at you, you can just slap his hand. And on the level of conflict or confrontation, you just hit him. But it's a very simple hit. You're just slapping his hand. And what does that let him know? That's letting him know that you have techniques where you can hit this man very easily. So now he's in stance, you just slapped his hand, now has an opening here. And if he doesn't come back to defend his face again, you could either counter that strike and deliver a strike. But the most important thing is you are now in that opponent's mind. You didn't hit him in the face. You didn't hit him in the legs. It was a simple slap that completely changed the dynamic of the fight. So those are called slaps. Get used to them. Get good at them because they're easy to do. You're going to get really good at it. It's not a hard slap. You know, it's not like you're slapping someone in the face, right? It's just a nice little slap. Hard? No. Firm? Yes. And then you can move your opponent's arms out of the way by doing that. Obviously, in defense, we're going to be focused on parries. So what is a parry? A parry is a block. And there are many ways that you can block your opponent. But the best way to block your opponent is by the wrists. So if you have an opponent who's coming to hit you with the other hand, you're just simply going to want to grab his wrist. And then from that level of grabbing his wrist, you can immobilize. If you have enough strength, if you're training, you can bring that wrist down and immobilize it, and then switch arms on that wrist, and then punch him in the face, or punch him in the neck, or in the throat. So pretty much, I'm throwing a fist, right? You're grabbing that fist, and then you can switch your hand on that same wrist, and then deliver a punch with the other hand. So, you know, someone's coming at me, I grab his wrist, right? And then I could even switch to this hand and then switch back to that hand and hit him. But the main thing is you're grabbing his wrist, you can pull it down and hit him in the face. One of the main things that Bruce Lee taught was that you should be able to block and hit at the same time, right? So that's like the ultimate. If you're able to block and hit at the same time, then that's really the highest level of fighting that you can get to. So we're always trying to achieve that.